Good morning. This is MJ from Lioness Publications. Today, what we're going to start looking at, in fact, it's going to be a series of sessions on this, is J.D. Vance. I've hesitated starting to do his charts because I'm trying to find out if he was born at home or at a hospital. His natal chart is showing up having Venus very close to the ascendant. And a little hesitant to just take that as fact because he doesn't strike me as someone that has Venus that close to the ascendant. And that's why I've held off on doing his charts. But I figured, let's move along and start doing them and see where it takes us. And then, if I see any updated information on where he was born, then we might try to correct anything going backwards. Now, if he was born at home, it would not be unusual that the time of birth would be wrong. Sometimes when the birth starts, they note that as when someone is born, or they may wait till after the cleanup of the baby, so it could be 15, 20 minutes afterwards. So while, the time of birth can be reasonably close, it's not unusual to be wrong. So let's take a look at the first session we're going to do here. And this is actually looking at some of his natal placements and two of the placements in relation to the United States chart. So what I have here is we have J.D. Vance on the outside ring, and we have the United States chart on the inside. Now, his planets are literally placed on the United States. So we can sort of see how he can impact the states. Now, from his natal chart, I want to talk about three specific configurations we have. And there are more, but I think these are sort of important. I think most people will recognize some of the characteristics that come with that. First, what we have in his natal chart is that we have Mars squaring his Venus. So what does that mean? Well, literally, typically when you have an angle like this, you're not usually very receptive to women, or you maybe tend to be on the coarse side. You may be less gracious. So there is sort of like a demeaning aspect here. And it's usually the woman or possibly other people in the community that have the downside. So this is definitely something you pick up in his speech when he talks about women. Women belong in the home. Women belong this way. They should be home doing kids. So he has this predefined notion of what a woman should be doing. And definitely that she is beneath, the level of a man. So we get that from how he is. The next one I want to bring up is his Saturn, which is right over there. It is squaring his sun. So what does that mean? His self-expression is really restricted. He's stilted. Sometimes you get the impression that he's not letting you know who he really is. He can be very friendly, but there's definitely a part that he's reserving back. So his ability to be who he is severely curtailed. The next one I want to note is down here, we have Jupiter, and Jupiter is in trine to Mercury. And that's a great angle. Trine isn't easy, it's harmonious. Usually the energies can flow. You can get a lot accomplished if you know that it's a good time for you. Sometimes when it's a good time, we just sort of tend to sit back and relax. Now, in the natal chart, when this shows up, in effect, when it gets triggered by a transiting planet, it means that he actually has the ability to make the most of some situations. In this case, Jupiter, in effect, you think, okay, publishing, education, and we have Mercury, writing. So again, he had a book that did very, very well. So this is something he could do very well on. He could bring in quite a few different ideas, and since this is in Mercury's in Virgo, he could be very precise. So his writing and the way he's expressing could be right to the point, very little fluff. So he's talented in that respect. Now, those are the three that I wanted to note in his natal chart. We might come up on some other ones, but I think it's an important clue to who he is. And as I said, I'm not quite sure about his ascendant time yet, the degree, because I'm not sure if I see the Venus sitting right on his ascendant. Let's take a look at two angles, though, that his chart makes to the United States chart. And this is really important. We have Uranus here that is actually making an opposition to the United States Uranus. What is that? Change. It's an opposition, it's conflict. So we have conflict here between change that the United States would have and change that he may in effect be trying to implement. Why is this important? Because again, these are both natal charts, they're static. It's important because his Uranus over here is actually going to be transited by Uranus coming up next year, specifically around August 8th. What's going to happen is transitant Uranus, which right now is in the 6th house, it doesn't show it here, is going to come up, cross into the 7th, and guess what? It's going to hit the Uranus of the United States. Changes. A lot of tech changes going on, but changes in general. That's also going to affect him. Seems to be it's going to hit the United States, changes within the states. Excuse me. Then it hits his Uranus, means that he may be against these changes that are occurring next year, but we'll see how that turns out. The next one I want to note on the United States chart, the pollen, is, where are we here? Venus. Yes. Venus here is actually conjunct to the United States Neptune. What is Neptune? It's, for the United States chart, it's the idealism of where the United States wants to be. So it's the hope, the dreams. In its worst case, it's the drugs. It's the addictions. It's cults. We have Venus, his Venus sitting right on that. So what is that meaning? Well, in effect, he's able to influence. So Venus is a social thing, meaning that he can influence how, or he can play to the dreams, the wishes of the populace, of what they want. And he does have that ability. People that are friends of his say that he can be very well spoken when, talking to friends. He, is well liked by his crowd, in a crowd. Some people wonder how he ended up in the situation with Trump. But then, he could be just very ambitious and he knew that this was a quick and easy way, maybe, to step up in the world. So that's going to be important as we move forward. Now, if you don't have, as a politician, if you don't have angles into the United States chart, it's going to be really hard for you to move into, for example, position as a president of the United States. You might move in to be a senator or representative, but usually moving into the highest office, it would be tough. Now, we're going to come back probably a little later today, and we're going to look at his transits, specifically for around July timeframe. We're going to try to see sort of what's happening in his life, whereas, in relation to the things that are going on around him. So this was relatively short. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Bye now.